I could never imagine that I'd be standing here. It's time to go beyond the wall.
Welcome to Film Fanatics, presented by St. George News. I'm Adam Mast with Cinemast.net.
And I'm film critic Bruce Bennett with madaboutmovies.org.
Well, thank you, Allegiant. You have now made it far more difficult to differentiate from Divergent, The Maze Runner, and The Hunger Games. Am I right?
I've already forgotten
Can
everything.
you even tell which one is which at this point?
No, not really.
Allegiant is based on the third book in a series penned by Veronica Roth, and it finds warrior for the people Triss, played by Shailene Woodley, her dreamy soulmate Thor, played by Theo James, and a resistance team venturing beyond the massive walls of a war-torn and politically divided Chicago, where they find an even more ravaged outside world. Eventually, our fearless team befriend a society they never knew existed, and ultimately Triss is brought face to face with David, played by Jeff Daniels, a godlike figure who may or may not have a hidden agenda. Does that about sum it up?
That does.
And there are a lot of hidden agendas in this movie, Bruce.
I guess so. You know, Adam, we already know that the third installment in a series of films is difficult. If you look at Spider-Man, Batman, Lord of the Rings, even if the third film's good, it rarely eclipses some of the previous films.
Right.
But I have to say, for me, Allegiant dips to an even new low. Now, this is what's interesting, Adam. Just by coincidence, I happened to see, right after I saw this film, the Force Awakens again. You know, by comparison, the dialogue in Allegiant is dull, the action sequences are not creative, the humor is very sparse, and most importantly, the characters are really forgettable.
Sometimes when I look past the wall, I think that I can see something out there. Do you?
No, I don't.
I will give Allegiant this. It is not a carbon copy of the predecessor.
That's true.
But the problem is there are still familiar things in there, and it's so derivative of Hunger Games and Maze Runner that the line has just become completely blurred. And this movie, it even starts taking elements of other movies, like The Matrix and Fury Road, for instance.
Well,
So
there's a
lot of
difference
that stuff
between being
very derivative.
derivative and influenced by. My
Right.
biggest problem in this series the entire time has been the central character portrayed by Shailene Woodley.
Right.
We loved her in The Descendants. I think she has a long career ahead of her.
Spectacular now. She's been good, really
And
good in
maybe
a lot
we're
of stuff.
using Jennifer Lawrence as an example too
Right.
much, but she just doesn't have the central core believability
She
as a
doesn't-
strong heroine.
She doesn't have the
for me.
fire. She does
Right.
not have the that fierce independent spirit.
The most interesting character in this particular installment for me was Miles Teller, and the Peter
That's
character.
crazy because I thought he was obnoxious and I didn't find
But,
him. I didn't find him interesting.
I
at
didn't
all.
see. I don't see him as necessarily likable, but I think they could have used more of his acting skill and the way he delivers humor.
Yeah.
He gives some humor when we first meet him again. It's funny
Right.
and it's interesting, and
Yeah.
then they kind of forget him until the end. There's some plot points. You know, if you are easily rescued, you don't automatically trust the people that rescue you, especially early in the film.
There's a lot of that going. Again, hidden agendas. There's a lot of that
Right.
going on in this movie. When Peter, the Miles Teller character, shows up, everyone's acting like he's never pulled a fast one on them before.
They forgot the last movie.
They should have kicked that guy's to the curb 2 movies ago.
Well,
It doesn't-
summarizing.
It doesn't make any sense. This is not a good movie. I wouldn't call it a bad movie. I'd certainly much rather watch it than the Fifth Wave, for
Okay.
instance, but that's faint praise
Fair
at
enough.
best. So I'm going to say Allegiant, skip it.
I say skip it. So unless you're a die-hard fan, ignore it completely.
That's been another fabulous edition of Film
We say so
Fanatics.
ourselves.
And I'm Adam Mast with Cinemast.net.
And I'm Bruce Bennett with madaboutmovies.org.
And we're Film Fanatics.
Are you?
Yeah, man, we totally agreed on this one.
I know it. You
Yeah.
know, didn't listen to much reaction.
No, there were a couple of giggles, like weirdly awkward, misplaced humor.
And that was just your
I don't
wife
like it.
looking at you.
She was.